So over the last couple months, after really getting into Battlefront 2 for the first time, in my gaming history, like I've played the game a few times in years past, but it wasn't until a few months ago with the resurgence that I really started getting invested in the game. Learning strategies for dueling, learning strategies for XP grinding, learning strategies for supremacy, just really immersing myself in the game and understanding the ins and outs of it. I've become somewhat of a co-op main, ironically. I really enjoy co-op. And most recently, I decided to start a grind that I am now about 35-40% of the way through to max out every single hero in the game. So I decided to use my expertise in the field of co-op to make a list for the 5 people in the world that actually care about co-op grinding. This is just kind of a list that's designed to tell you who are the easiest slash who are the best players for co-op, who are the best characters in co-op. Um, this is not necessarily who the best characters overall are in the game, not even necessarily how fun they are to play. It's just like who is the easiest to just rack up score and dominate a co-op lobby with. Before I get into the ranking system, though, I just want to lay out a few ground rules. Firstly, there's really nobody that's downright bad in this game, as I'm sure, has been covered in many other ranking lists. What makes this unique is just that I'm doing it for co-op specifically. I don't think I've ever seen somebody do a co-op specific list, but there's nobody that's like downright bad, and characters that might be more fun to play might not necessarily be higher on this list. Um, this is truly just measuring who are the easiest and best characters for co-op, like who just can absolutely dominate a co-op game. Um, Another ground rule is that this list is going to be made assuming that you are using the most appropriate star cards for each character as you're going through it. Is like there are certain characters where just their base default abilities they're not nearly as strong as some others until you incorporate the proper star cards. Number one on this list, for instance, there is a massive difference between the base abilities and how they function and how much they can dominate co-op compared to if you equip the right star cards to go with the character. Okay, so without further ado, because we got a long way to go in this video, let's get into the list. So coming in at number 22, because somebody has to be at the bottom of the list, we have Boba Fett. Boba is an incredibly fun character to use, and you still absolutely can be at the top of your lobby with Boba Fett. You just have to sweat your ass off to do it, and you have to have some players that aren't very competent on Vader or Bosk or Palpatine or Iden in order to do it. The few things that really hold Boba back: one, Blaster is really difficult to use, particularly if you're on console. If you use aim assist regularly for blasters on console, but then you don't get it for Boba, that can be pretty jarring. He's super vulnerable in the air, and his health regeneration is completely abysmal. And there's no health regen cards to help with that. It was between him and one other character, trying to decide who was going to be here at the bottom, and I ultimately went with Boba instead of the other character, primarily because of the health generation. That ended up being the deciding factor. One final note: Rocket Barrage, which is his best ability for clearing out groups, can be super frustrating when you land it right in the middle of a giant group of enemies, and you'll still just be lucky if you get 3 kills out of it, even though you feel like you landed it dead on, because Rocket Barrage is just super inconsistent as an ability. So for all those reasons, I think Boba comes in at number 22 here at the bottom. Coming in at number 21 is Count Dooku, the only person below him being Boba Fett. Like I said with Boba, really the only reason that I put Dooku ahead of him is because of the health regeneration, particularly if you use Sith Control, the star card. If it weren't for the health generation, he'd probably be behind even Boba. Boba does have range, which is nice, that helps him out, but the fact that Dooku has that health regeneration, like I mentioned, but also his lightning stun and his duelist, which both are capable of one-shotting enemies, that gives him a little bit of an edge over Boba, I think. Whereas Boba doesn't really have any abilities that can consistently and reliably one-shot most infantry heroes. He has some that do, but Dooku can a lot more consistently do it. Obviously, the thing that holds Dooku back, and the reason that he's number 21, only ahead of Boba Fett, is the fact that he has 0 range at all in any of his abilities. Lightning Stun is the most ranged attack that he has, and that's still only like a few meters. So you're going to lose a lot of health running around. trying to get up in people's face just so that you can hit them with the lightsaber. Granted, like I said, you can one shot them once you get there, but it's just really difficult moving around, and you'll get your ass beat a lot. The only thing that makes him playable in co-op is when you use the Sith Control health regeneration card. Coming in at number 20, we have Yoda. Yoda's actually pretty decent. Everybody from here on out is really just not bad at all. Like, actually pretty decent and more than viable. I really kind of view Dooku and Boba to be on a real bottom tier of difficult to play. But everybody after that, like, it's definitely usable. The thing that really holds Yoda back, there's two things. One, the great benefit that you get of the small hitbox, which is so useful in Supremacy for staying alive, completely negated in co-op because of the fact that the AI just has fucking aimbot. So it just does not matter, your small hitbox. The other thing is his slow swing speed. It can be absolutely brutal when you're going up trying to take on a droideka, and it feels like it takes you 10 fucking years to get off the requisite amount of swings in order to kill it. And meanwhile, it's just lighting you up with overload the whole time you're doing it. Um, the dash is helpful for moving around and closing distance on an enemy, but really doesn't do as much damage as you would like. And the fact that you have to charge up Unleash before you're actually able to get its maximum effect really holds him back. But the swing speed is really the primary thing that has Yoda so far down this list, being the second lowest Saber hero. The Unleash has the range to give him a slight edge over Dooku. Um, but the slow swing speed, the fact that he can't really one-shot troopers outside of Unleash, that hinders him a little bit. Coming in at number 19 is going to be BB9E, which is really a shame because he's one of my personal favorites to play. I have a lot of fun playing him, but I just couldn't really justify having him any higher on the list than this as much as I wanted to. Shock Spin is a really good ability for taking on groups of infantry. It's certainly no cable spin like BB-8 has, but it can definitely get the job done. You can clear out a group of enemies using shot spin. Um, One of the more underrated aspects of BB-9E that I don't think a lot of people know is his right ability, Charge Up. It can get you lots of XP. For those that don't know, whenever an enemy that is affected by your charge up gets a kill, you get points for it. You get XP for it. So, something you can do is you just use charge up right before you see, a Kylo that's about to just wipe a group of enemies, or a Palpatine that's about to use Chain Lightning to wipe a group of enemies. If you strategically use charge up, you can get a shit ton of points for him. That, along with his back to support, that can, passively get you XP. He's actually a lot better getting XP than I think most people realize. The presence of a health regeneration card to go along with some of the other factors I just listed is enough for me to put him ahead of Yoda on this list, but he doesn't really have the damage output or ability to clear out large groups of infantry the way that some of the other characters ahead of him do, for me to be able to put him any higher on the list. So that's why I have BB-9E coming in at a very respectable number 19. Coming at number 18, just slightly ahead of BB-9E, is Captain Phasma. I really wanted to have BB-9E ahead of Phasma, but I tried to look at this objectively, and in my opinion, the ability to have the range of having a blaster that BB-9E simply just doesn't have, that really gives Phasma an edge. It just makes her a lot more versatile, whereas BB-9E can really only excel in maps like the MC-85 Star Cruiser. Phasma can be very good on pretty much any of the First Order maps. That versatility, because of the blaster, really is what gives her a slight edge. And the presence of the turret still makes it so that she can control those small map areas in a similar way to the way BB-9E can. But she just has that versatility of the blaster to make her usable in more scenarios, and therefore I think that gives her a slight edge over BB-9E coming in at 18. Coming in at number 17, another one of my personal favorites is Rey. I really have fun playing Rey in this game. She has a very satisfying playstyle to me, and I think that she is definitively better than all the characters listed below her, but I couldn't justify having her any higher than this. It was really close between her and the person that comes next, and when I list that character, I'll go into that a little bit more. But as far as what makes Rey really good and better than the characters below her, she has the Dash Strike, which is great for clearing out ads. That can one-shot any of the infantry except for heavies. And then Insight is a great way to passively get XP because, similar to what I said with BB-9E, any enemy that's revealed by Insight, you're getting kills for that, even if you've done no damage at all to them. So that's a really great way to passively get points. Ray's survivability is quite difficult, and again, that's something I'm going to get into with the next character. One final note that really hurts Ray is the fact that one of her abilities, Mind Trick, is quite literally useless in co-op. And I mean that literally. It does absolutely nothing to the AI. You don't even get assists for enemies that are killed by it that are influenced by Mind Trick. So she really just is only playing with two abilities, and that alone is enough to really hamper her ranking on the list. And that's why I feel like I couldn't really have her any higher than this, but Ray is certainly still very good and very fun to play as far as doing an XP grind, trying to max her out. So that's why I have her coming in at 17. So coming in at number 16, just above Ray, is going to be Darth Maul. The thing that kind of, for me, puts Maul slightly above Ray is one, the fact that all three of his abilities do damage in some type of way. Whether you have the spin attack, the saber throw, or the choke, all of them deal damage. He has great maneuverability, particularly with the spin attack. And even the saber throw and choke, they also have decent range too. So he has an ability, despite being a saber hero, to actually have pretty good range with all three of his abilities. And then if you have certain star cards, it can make a saber throw stronger. You can use lightsaber defense so that you don't get lit up by blasters as easily. Um, but the thing that made me give Maul a slight edge over Ray, I feel like Ray's easier to get XP with. However, Maul is easier to stay alive with, which ultimately will result in more XP, if that makes sense. It's a very narrow margin. What makes me say Maul is easier to stay alive with? One, having that lightsaber, sorry, having the blaster damage resistance card that really helps with staying alive, but also the reinforcements that Ray has to fight against compared to the reinforcements that Maul has to fight against, it's night and day. Ray has to deal with the Flame Trooper, which goes through block, the Jet Trooper, which has a blaster that goes through block, and she has to deal with the Sith Trooper, which has the Oppression Grenade and a secondary fire, which, you guessed it, goes through block. Whereas Maul, like, don't get me wrong, Wookiee Warriors, fucking annoying. Rocket Trooper with their, Jet Trooper with the rocket launcher, also annoying. But an Ewok compared to a Sith Trooper, and even the Wookiee compared to the Flame Trooper, it's just night and day. Rey has to go against such tougher reinforcements, which makes her a lot more difficult to stay alive with. So even though I think you can get XP at a faster rate with Rey, the fact that you're more likely to stay alive with Maul, therefore, is going to result in more XP overall. So I think that gives Maul a very slight edge over Rey, coming in at 16. All right, coming in at number 15 now, this is when we're really starting to get into the characters that are just really, really good. Like, regardless of situation, it's just going to keep progressively getting better and better as it goes on. But, like, really, we're starting to get into characters that it's really easy to use most of the time, and you're going to consistently get pretty good XP. So, at 15, we have Lando. Lando has Sharp Shot, which is really great for taking on groups of enemies in open spaces in particular. I would say that him and Finn are the two best characters in the game for like super open co-op maps where there's just enemies all spread out. Lando and Finn can really take on those groups very easily. It can be a little finicky, the Sharp Shot, as far as sometimes you'll have literally like 9 red squares, and somehow Lando only hits 2 of them, and then you don't get to take advantage of the recharge card for Sharp Shot, and it pisses you off. And his primary blaster also has really shit range. Uh, Lastly, smoke, totally useless. So those factors prevent him from being any higher, but still more than serviceable character Lando, coming in at a very solid 15. Coming in at number 14 is Kylo Ren, another one of my personal favorites. I think the favorite of a lot of people in this game. Kylo has 3 great abilities for dealing with groups of enemies. He's got the pull, which does a little bit of damage and brings a group towards you so that you can clear them out with a lightsaber. You've got Frenzy, which can also clear out a group. And then the Freeze, which can stop a group in place, give you time to regen health. And obviously you can chain these abilities together a lot to really just wipe out a large group of enemies at once. I really don't have anything negative to say about Kylo. He's really good. All the characters above him on this list, I feel like, just have a little bit more versatility. They're just a little bit better. But Kylo is really fucking good for playing co-op and gaining XP at a quick rate. There's just other characters that are a little bit better. So that's why Kylo comes in at number 14, despite the fact that I really love him and I think he's really good. Moving on to number 13, we have Obi-Wan. This is going to be the kind of start of the next tier. In my mind, there was like four tiers for this list. The first one was that bottom tier, Dooku and Boba. Then the next one was Yoda at 20 all the way up to Kylo at 14. That was kind of the next tier of good, like serviceable, not awful like Boba and Dooku, and not great like some of the characters I'm about to go into now, but good, solid. But now we're getting into the characters that really just they can put out really high damage output. They have a lot of survivability. They can be used in a lot of situations. This is where it really just starts to get. We're just fucking shredding out the XP with these characters. So 13 is Obi-Wan. Um, he's got his push, which is awesome. Has great range. Can clear out pretty much anything in front of him. I think it even one shots. It even one shots the jet droids. So it one shots all infantry plus the jet droids. It does a lot of damage to the super battle droid and the droideka and clone commando as well. Just really strong ability. Defensive rush can also one shot all the infantry except for the heavy. Mind Trick is completely useless, and that definitely hinders him a bit. But the really strong stamina and health regeneration to go along with Defensive Rush and All Out Push, both being very strong abilities, puts Obi-Wan in at a very solid number 13. Coming in at 12 is going to be Luke Skywalker. This may be controversial for others. I feel like most people think that Luke is probably higher on this list than I do. I don't know. Luke is just push is really good. Repulse does a lot of damage. Ironically, I think his best ability is actually just his basic lightsaber swing. If you have Intensify on the star card, obviously. Just the ability to go around just one-shotting everybody with very quick swing speed. Like, that's really good. He does a lot of damage, but he has really bad health regeneration. And Repulse is deceptively bad in co-op, honestly. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. It does damage, and that's great and all, but it leaves you so incredibly vulnerable when you use it. I just do not use Repulse when you are like below 200 health. Just don't use it. Like, yeah, it might do damage, but you're gonna get fucked up while you do it. It oftentimes is an ability that does more harm than good when you use it. It doesn't have great. It has fine range, not great. Same with push, fine range, not great. Um, he puts out a lot of damage, but I just feel like his survivability is lower than all the characters I'm listing. Uh, all the characters I'm listing ahead of him on this list. He has worse survivability than Obi-Wan even. But he just puts out so much damage compared to Obi-Wan that I still give him a slight edge over him. But it's really just the survivability between the low health regeneration and how vulnerable some of his abilities leave him. That's why I feel like Luke, despite the high damage output, and I know this may be controversial, I don't think he's any higher than 12. Coming in at 11 is Han Solo. This is another one of the characters on this list where it really matters which star cards you have on for him. The most important one for co-op specifically is going to be All In. I guess Airverse is pretty important too, but All In is an absolute game changer. The description for All In, I'm sure most people know about this by now, but the description for All In says that when you kill an enemy with shoulder charge, you get shoulder charge back at a rate of 50% faster. But it also has a hidden effect of giving you sharpshooter and, most importantly, detonite charge back at 50% rate too. So you get a kill with shoulder charge, and you're able to throw the fucking detonite charge like it's like every like 7 or 8 seconds. It's something like that. It's fucking crazy. You have a little fucking just mini nuke that can clear out like 6, 7, 8 enemies that if they're really bunched together. You can just spam that shit like every 7 seconds. It's actually kind of fucking crazy. The blaster has really good range too. So that high damage output combined with the survivability of being able to keep a distance from your enemies, finally combined with the fact that he's very strong on Endor, where you can just do some infinite XP shenanigans on Endor. Those three factors to me put Han slightly above Luke, coming in at 11. Coming in at number 10 is Leia Organa, another one of my absolute favorites in this game, particularly in HVV, but that's not what this list is about. Leia, she's got the 3 thermal detonators, which are great for taking out groups of enemies. She's got her E11, which she can use pretty frequently, considering it's an ability and not her primary blaster. It might as well be her primary blaster with how often you get to use it. Um, that's also awesome for taking on groups of enemies. Deals out insane damage. And then even her defender pistol, you can use it to take out enemies that are super far away with a secondary fire. She has a lot of versatility. Um, that in combination with the shield, that shield that she has is really the key thing that puts her over Luke and Han for me. That just gives her a tad bit more survivability than the other two. It's not difficult to stay alive with Han, but with Leia's shield, it's damn near impossible to die in co-op, no matter how many enemies you're facing, just because her shield is very strong. You can just pop it down in the middle of fucking open. You don't need cover. You just got Leia's shield. So that gives her a slight edge over Han, but I mean, it's really a personal preference thing. Han definitely is able to put out more damage with his Detonite charge when you use that star card. Um, but Leia has the E11, and she also has really good grenades. For me, it's really just, it comes down to the fact that Leia has the shield, which is portable cover, that Han just doesn't have. So that gives her a slight edge over Han, coming in at number 10. Number 9 is going to be Anakin Skywalker. This may be another controversial one, because I know everybody fucking loves Anakin. Maybe I'm just a Skywalker hater, I don't know, because I feel like I have Luke and Anakin lower than a lot of people would. He's got his pole, which can clear out a room. He's got Heroic Might, which can clear out a room. Passionate Strike, next to useless in co-op. But the Pull and Heroic Might, and then also Retribution whenever you get that charged up, all of them are great. I don't really have anything negative to say about Anakin. He's all the way up at number 9. I feel like he has a little bit less versatility than most of the characters that are going to come in above him. The Pull and Heroic Might have decent range, but not great range. It's really close between him and who I have coming in at number 8. I'll go into that a little bit more when I get to number 8, but Anakin's very strong, very easy to get XP with, and that's why I have him all the way up at number 9 out of 22 heroes. Number 8 is going to be General Grievous. Like I said with Anakin, it may be controversial having Grievous ahead of him, or maybe, I don't know, some of the other characters ahead of him even. For me, what puts Grievous ahead of Anakin, because I know what a lot of people are thinking, one of the reasons I said for why Anakin's as low as he is that he doesn't have much range. Well, Grievous doesn't really have range either. In fact, Anakin could be argued has more range. It's weird because, like, Grievous has, the surge, which goes across the map. But it's really, Claw Rush is really, that's the meat and potatoes for Grievous. Claw Rush can mow down a whole room of enemies. And I know that Anakin has abilities that can do that too. So you may be wondering, like, why do I think Grievous is ahead of him? For me, it really comes down to one key factor. And this is, again, where I go back to the beginning of the video where I specify that this list is made assuming that you are using the optimal star cards. And one of the star cards that you'll be using for General Grievous, which you should really never take off regardless of game mode, is Flesh is Weak. That's the one that gives you insane amounts of damage reduction the more health you lose. All the way down, when you get down to level 200, not level 200, when you get down to 200 health, you have like 50% damage reduction. It's fucking ridiculous. It just turns Grievous into an absolute fucking tank. Makes his survivability awesome. So the survivability factor of that damage resistance, along with also getting damage resistance while using Claw Rush, that gives him a slight edge over Anakin. He doesn't have quite the same damage output, but just being an absolute fucking tank, it's basically impossible to die with Grievous. That puts him all the way up at number 8, despite not really having a whole bunch of range with his attacks. Coming in at number 7 is going to be Finn. Finn is a weird one because on certain maps, aka Agent Kloss in particular, that's the main one I'm thinking of, he is just absolutely fucking insane. Like I said, him and Lando, when you get into those open scenarios, there's really, if it's a super open map, there's literally nothing that's going to beat out a Finn. Just because he has a fucking aimbot ability that can kill enemies super fast, and it just like flicks from target to target. It's fucking insane. Once you get into closer range maps, though, it's not that he becomes bad, but he really just loses out in his dominance. You get into maps like the MC-85 Starway, you're just going to get beat out by Chewie using his ground slam, or BB-8 using the cable spin, or even Rey with her dash strike. You're just going to get beat out every time, because they all just have abilities that can just like one-hit enemies, whereas Finn he just doesn't. So he has a little bit less versatility Again, not that he becomes bad indoors, but just that he really loses his dominance once he goes to smaller range maps. Um, so that slight lack of versatility between him and the character that comes next, that's what makes Finn just really, really good all the way up at number 7, but not quite as high as some of the characters I'm about to get into next. Coming into number 6 is going to be Iden Versio. Like I said, the difference between Iden and Finn is I feel like Iden just has a little bit more versatility. She's not going to be quite as good at dealing with those, big open map scenarios. Like if you put her on Agent Kloss, she wouldn't do nearly as well as Finn. But the presence of the secondary fire is just like a do-it-all tool. You can launch it across the map and take out enemies that way. And it also is super strong at dealing with enemies that are right there in front of you. It is also an ability that can one-shot a whole group of like 3 or 4 infantry at once, and you can use it super fast with the star card that allows you to use it more often. So it's really just a versatility factor. She also has a shock spin, not shock spin, sorry, her shock droid that can buy her some time to stay alive in certain situations when there's a group rushing her. Um, and then she also has a shield. If you ever, for some reason, get in a sticky situation, you can just pop the shield, and then you're good. It gives you time to run away and regen your health. So Iden and Finn really, really close to each other. I just feel like Iden has a little bit more of that versatility, where she's not going to be quite as good as Finn is on the super open maps, but she's significantly better than Finn is on the more close range maps. Like, I can just put it this way. I feel like Iden would perform a lot better on Agent Kloss than Finn would perform on the first phase of Jabba's palace. So just a little bit more versatility gives Iden a slight edge over Finn at number 6. Now we are getting into the top 5. Number 5 is going to be Vader. There's really nothing to say about Vader that people don't already know at this point. He's an absolute fucking tank. Like a literal fucking tank. He has so much fucking health. And he has an ability that just adds on even more health on top of it. And that ability also gives him damage increase. Like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking when they made Vader's abilities in this game. Saber Throw and Choke are both really good for taking out enemies that have a little bit of distance on you. Saber Throw in particular, like you can just throw that down a hallway. Or Choke, you can, if there's enemies that are all really clustered together, like I'm particularly thinking that first phase of Jabba's Palace, you can literally choke like 7 enemies at once. And the fact that you can block while using both of those just makes Vader, it's like similar to what I said with Grievous, but it's even to a more extreme degree. Vader is just, it's like impossible to die with him. And he can just put out just insane levels of damage. The only thing that makes him, the reason that he is all the way down at number 5, despite everything that I'm saying, is a slight lack of versatility. Saber Throw has good range, but if you get into a truly open map, there's nothing that Vader has to be a super ranged attack. He is still a Saber hero after all. But he is definitively the best Saber hero that there is for co-op, just because of all the tank factors, and the fact that Choke and Saber Throw do still give him some decent range. About as much range as you can have as a Saber character. But in those close range scenarios, he's as good as it gets. Like, he's just fucking insane. It's just a slight lack of versatility that makes him not be quite as high as some of the other characters. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Palpatine. We are now getting into what I consider to be the fourth and final tier of characters. The previous one, it had Vader at number 5, going all the way down to Obi-Wan at number 13. Those are the characters that are just like really, really good in most situations. But now with this top 4, we're in the characters that are just like outright amazing. In pretty much any situation you can think of, they are a fantastic pick for co-op. You're just going to be getting insane levels of XP. It's just you can be fucking half paying attention and you're still going to outscore a Boba Fett. That's like, if you're Palpatine, he's number 4. You could have a hand up your ass while you're playing. You're still going to easily outscore a Boba Fett player if you were just like semi-competent and know how to play the game. In regards to Palpatine specifically, though, it's really just comes down to one ability: Chain Lightning. With the right star cards, you get it to bounce around to up to 9 enemies, and then you get to recharge faster. Chain Lightning is just fucking ridiculous. Takes out whole groups of enemies. The only reason that he's not higher than he is just because of the fact that Chain Lightning really is the only, like, his other two abilities that he has are just not bad, but they just don't do much. They're just really not that useful. And Chain Lightning, even though like you can get it back pretty quickly with that star card, there is still a gap. No matter how, even if you get that star card to its max ability, there's still a period of time that you have to wait before you can use Chain Lightning again. And he can be a little bit vulnerable during that time. But again, with these top four, it's really just nitpicking. Like Palpatine is just amazing. And the only reason that he's not above the three characters ahead of him is just because there's a little bit of wait time that you have to take into account. You're a little bit vulnerable and you're just kind of waiting to get Chain Lightning back so that you can mow down another group of enemies. Now entering the top three, coming in at number three, we have Chewbacca. Um, Anybody that knows about the MC85 hallway, that's really the only justification I need for why Chewbacca is as high as he is on this list. That combination of the shock into the ground slam to just literally take out like 15 fucking enemies at once. There's nothing like it. There's nothing more satisfying in this game than just absolutely laying into a group of enemies with ground slam. He also has the Furious Bowcaster with when you use that with the proper star cards, you can make him viable on those super open maps. Weirdly enough, I think you could actually argue that after Finn and Lando, Chewbacca is the next best that there is when it comes to dealing with those super open maps. With the star card on that makes it so that Furious Bowcaster recharges on kill, you can theoretically have it last infinitely. So I think that's something that just gives him a slight edge over Palpatine. You don't have to wait to get Chewbacca's Furious Bowcaster. You have to wait for the ground slam, but Furious Bowcaster, that can go on forever. There's never an instance where if you're really using Chewbacca optimally, there's never an instance where you are really in danger. Also combining that with Impervious, which can just give you a flat 34% damage resistance, which is fucking absurd. Just makes Chewbacca a tank. He has versatility to deal with large clusters of enemies that are really close. He can deal with enemies that are super far away with Furious Bowcaster. Chewbacca is just super easy to use in co-op. You're going to be flying through levels, especially if you just keep getting MC85. Coming in all the way at second place is BB-8. BB-8 is complicated when it comes to him versus Chewbacca because Chewbacca just does a slam and it just wipes out everybody around him, whereas BB-8 kind of has to slowly roll down the hallway and gradually take them all out. Ultimately, if BB-8 isn't competing with a Chewbacca, though, it's the single best XP outlet that there is, really. MC85 with BB-8. There's nothing like it. But you may be asking, if they were like competing with each other, and Chewbacca would win if you have a BB-8 and Chewbacca competing for XP on MC85, and Chewbacca wins that, and Chewbacca has the range that BB-8 doesn't. Why does BB-8 come in ahead of him? For me, it comes down to one simple factor, and it's his left ability. This is something I've touched on with a few other characters like BB-9E and Rey, but that ability to just passively get XP just by simply having an ability active is really, really underrated. And that's exactly what the left ability does with BB-8, that resistance backing. Any enemy that's revealed by your resistance backing, you're going to get XP for that. So if you just go down the hallway, mow them down with cable spin, come back, use resistance backing, you get XP for all of the kills that your teammates are getting while you're on your way back. It just results in some absolutely bananas level of XP that you can get with BB-8. I mean, I've had games where I legitimately get like 120,000 XP with BB-8 on MC85. That's before double XP, before triple XP. Just a flat 120,000 XP. Just absurd the amount of XP that you can get with BB-8. Cable spin mows enemies down. Resistance backing gets you extra XP. So that gives him a slight edge over Chewbacca, even though if Chewbacca is competing with BB-8 on the MC85, Chewbacca is going to win if that Chewbacca really knows what they're doing. It's really close between those two, and between number one, and even Palpatine. Like I said, these four are kind of in a tier. Like, they're all really close. I feel like you could even argue Palpatine up at number one, honestly. It's really just personal preference. But the resistance backing, that gives BB-8 the slight edge over Chewbacca, coming in at number two. Finally, coming in at number one, my personal favorite, Bossk. Like I said at the beginning of the video, character number 1 on this list is a prime example of how star cards really matter. If you just have Bosk in his base form, still really fucking good in co-op, but you're going to run into a lot of instances where he is super vulnerable because you used all of his abilities and then all you have is this primary blaster, which is not very good for dealing with groups of enemies in co-op. However, if you run the star card that just makes it so that you can refresh your middle ability each time you get a kill, and then you also run the star card that lets you refresh your abilities each time you get a kill, and then you run the star card that makes it so that your gas lasts longer, you get yourself into a cycle of death where all of a sudden you you can essentially throw infinite gas where there is always gas on the field and you are just infinitely in your ultimate predator ability. And you're just launching grenades, throwing gas, dropping mines. Literally, you could do it. If you're on 3rd phase or 4th phase, Jabba's Palace, you can just be in Predator like the whole fucking time, just throwing gas. It's absurd. Like I said, with Palpatine and Chewbacca to some degree, and BB-8, like with BB-8, you have to wait to get Cable Spin. With Chewbacca, you have to wait for Ground Slam. With Palpatine, you have to wait for Chain Lightning. With Bosk, if you're using these star cards, you literally you never have to wait for your abilities. You're just constantly this OP god just running around launching abilities that clear out groups of enemies. It just gives him so much versatility. It makes him into a just one-man army where you can just single-handedly defend Jabba's Palace or Kessel like no other. Bosk is he's awesome. He doesn't have an ability like Resistance backing, which is going to get him that passive XP, but the gas makes it so that you can get so many assists, and Ultimate Predator just lasts so long. It's all just super great for taking out groups of enemies, which is what co-op is all about. So that's why my personal favorite character in this game, Bosk, he comes in at number 1. Well, that covers it for my co-op list that nobody asked for, and we'll see how many people watch it. If you are still watching this, I love you, sincerely. Do me a favor, drop a like on it if you made it all the way through. I've become somewhat of a co-op main. Co-op is super fun. I am still, like I said, only about 35-40% of the way through the grind, and I've been at it for a couple months now. But, I'm going to get there eventually, and it's honestly really fun. I think that co-op is a slept-on game mode, and there's just something really satisfying about hearing that fucking kill noise of when you pop a nice crispy chain lightning and it just wipes out a whole group of enemies, or you're in Ultimate Predator with Bosk, or you're doing Cable Spin, or you do a Ground Slam with Chewbacca, and you just see the kill feed just light up with enemies. That's all I got. If you watched all of this, again, thank you so much. Drop a like, share it with your friends. I hope this was helpful for anybody that is maybe wanting to max out a few characters. I guess the takeaway would be maybe don't try to max out Boba or Dooku first, because that is just not an enjoyable time. Maybe start with Bosk or BB-8 or Palpatine. I don't know. Do whatever the fuck you want ultimately. This was all just a idea that I randomly got inspired to do. I hope people enjoy it, the people that watch it. Check out my other Battlefront 2 videos. I kind of stopped uploading them for a while. I don't know, maybe if this one gets a lot of attention, I'll start uploading them again. I'm just a little bit busy with some other stuff going on in my life, but I got randomly inspired to make this, so here it is. Alright, thank you for watching.